Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the news. Welcome back to Bi-Monthly Bull, the only news program on the internet guaranteed to give you abandonment issues because every episode ends like this.
I'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.
That was over a year ago. This series is the absent father of satirical news. I should have ended that episode with I'm just popping out to get cigarettes and then return 10 years later with baseball tickets and a girlfriend younger than you. But now that trust between us has been destroyed, stay tuned for a more realistic end to tonight's episode. I'm your host Lewis Spears, and what's going on with my eye? First, let's get into this week's quick stories. Whoopi Goldberg is in trouble for saying that the Holocaust wasn't about race. Never thought I'd hear that from someone with the last name Goldberg. Also, why is The View talking about the Holocaust at all? That's a daytime morning TV show for depressed mothers. You never heard the Nazi Empire discussing 3 easy back-to-school lunches? Stay in your lane. Evil megacorporation Amazon has thrown their support behind the legalization of weed after their research found out the more high you are, the harder it is to organize a union meeting.
Yeah, hey mate, was the union meeting 7 p.m. or 7 a.m.? Oh, 7 days ago. Well, there goes our rights.
Look, I'm all for decriminalizing weed, but do you really want to buy your drugs from this undercover cop and his sleep paralysis demon? Is free shipping with Prime really worth seeing this face halfway through a bad trip? And if Amazon gets their way, they will be literally the biggest drug dealer in the world, and instead of paying their employees an illegal amount of money, they'll pay them with a legal amount of drugs. Adidas or Adidas or however you want me to say its new campaign went absolutely viral after they posted 25 bare breasts on Twitter to show that their sports bras support all shapes and sizes. Personally, I'm not fully convinced yet, and I'm going to need to see some more specific evidence that Adidas supports the bodies of supermodels Megan Fox and Brazil's entire beach volleyball team. And in unrelated news, Bond's underwear is shutting their doors permanently after a similar campaign was used to advertise their new children's range. Now, with our quick stories out of the way, let's break down the last 2 weeks. To environmental news now, 2022 got off to a terrible start for Mother Earth, not just because of single-use masks, but also because oil company Repsol dumped 11,900 barrels of oil into the ocean in Peru. To talk to us about that disaster is the CEO of Repsol, Fernandez. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you for having me.
Fernandez, what can be done to fix this environmental disaster, and what are you going to do to ensure you don't damage the environment in future?
Well, Lewis, oil spills are a terrible thing, but what we can do to help the environment as a species is to band together and stop using single-use plastics like
I'm sorry, Fernandez, gonna stop you there. Your company is responsible for one of the biggest environmental disasters of the year so far. What are you going to do about it?
I'm glad you asked, Lewis. Personally, I've started up a compost in my backyard, so instead of throwing out a lot of food, I can now recycle it.
Fernandez, what are you talking about me? Why are you talking about us? You're a CEO of an oil company flying around in private jets while your company does so much more damage to the planet than even a city of individuals could ever do by using plastic bags. I want to know, what are you going to do to rectify the damage you've caused to the planet?
That's a good question, actually. Well, in our head office, we've stopped using plastic straws. Now we just use paper ones. That'll probably help a little bit.
Fuck you, Fernandez. The only thing worse than oil spills are paper straws. They get all soggy. I'd rather it be up a turtle's nose. Get off my show. Over to America now. In Massachusetts, a teacher has been fired after, during Black History Month, to teach children about racism, he got them to make blackface masks out of paper plates and wear them all day at school. Because the only way to show kids that something is bad is to get them to act it out. And luckily, this teacher was fired before he had a chance to teach the kids about slavery. And while this might sound bad for the school, it could be worse. After all, that teacher could have been in charge of drug education.
Okay, Jimmy, you got the belt around your arm. Good, well done. Okay, and inject. There we go. Ooh, whoops. Gave him an adult dose. You see, kids, there's the seizure. You see him seizing? That's how bad drugs are.
Over to celebrity news now, where Kanye West is either having a mental breakdown or about to drop an album. Or, more likely, both. Fun fact, I wrote that joke about a week ago before he announced this album. So either I can tell the future or this is getting predictable, Kanye. After moving on from his wife and single-use plastic Kim Kardashian, then hooking up with the female Patrick Bateman, Julia Fox, Kanye seemed pretty happy playing dress up with his new insane Barbie doll. But like the rest of us, about a month into the relationship, Kanye must have discovered the worst thing about Julia Fox, her personality. And just like us when we heard her voice, Kanye got the fuck out of there.
What is a muse? muse.
I mean, I was Josh Safdie's muse when he wrote Uncut Gems.
Right.
So with that strange relationship over, an even stranger one began. Kim Kardashian and notorious girlfriend snatcher Skeet Davidson, seemingly the only guy who's ever been on SNL just for the pussy. Skeet Davidson has women in trance. Some say it's because he's tall, others say it's because he's funny. I would say that he's on SNL, so it's gotta be the height there. And if there's one way to piss off Kanye, it's to do exactly what Kanye did. Fuck someone way below your fame bracket. Seriously, both of you guys went from fucking the most famous people on earth and then settled for a grey comedian with tattoos and a model with a lobotomy. That's like the UFC airlifting some random lad from Western Sydney and putting them in the heavyweight division on the main card. Oh wait, that's exactly what the UFC did. Let's go, Bam Bam. But that's not all that Kanye's upset about. He wants Kim Kardashian West to stop putting his daughter on TikTok to grow her social media profile because he thinks that media and fame corrupt. Kanye, you married into the Kardashian family. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen to your kids? Do you reckon they'd end up like Rob? No one wants to end up like Rob, Kanye. If I put my dick into a fly trap, I wouldn't complain about getting bit, because that's the kind of shit I like. Of course these kids will be pushed into the limelight. The two most famous people on earth made them. You think if I got Serena Williams pregnant, that kid would grow up to be a doctor? No, he's going straight into the NBA and then he's getting cancelled for tweets. You want a doctor, you get these two to fuck.
Hey, how are you doing? More importantly, how are your balls doing? I can tell from here disgusting. That's how they're doing. Trim, 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 trim. Have you ever heard of a trimmer? And better yet, have you heard of Manscaped? Manscaped.com? Specifically using code BIGSPEARS for 20% off and free shipping. The Lawnmower 4.0, the best ball bag trimmer in the game. Looks like Darth Vader decided to, leave the dark side and instead trim the taint side, okay? Great for that. Have you ever gone for a really big walk when it's really hot without using this beforehand? Awful, all right? Not only awful, right? Hot, sweaty, smelly. You don't want to do that. You wasted Valentine's Day. You put her through that for what? You're disgusting, all right? Use code BIGSPEARS for 20% off and free shipping, the best ball bag trimmer in the game. Something that I use all the time, and I think you can tell, without violating the guidelines here on YouTube, all right? I've got trim ball bag energy, and you can tell it comes through the screen. Unlike what I'm detecting through my screen, the smell of your nuts, okay? Trim them, or at least wash them. Wash them and then trim them. Manscaped.com. Use code BIGSPEARS, 20% off and free shipping. Support the brands that support the show. More importantly, fix up that bush. I'm disappointed. Use the link in the description and the top comment now. At a time when hard-hitting journalism is needed more than ever in this country, when politicians are caught up in scandals and corruption is everywhere, what Australia needs more than ever are journalists willing to tell the truth. Instead, what we get is people like me doing that once a year, promising to come back in 2 weeks, breaking that promise, and an autistic Warhammer vlogger screaming in a wig. Meanwhile, actual journalists at 60 Minutes are trying to do the impossible, make Scott Morrison likable. Seriously, this guy can't even get his colleagues in the Liberal Party to like him. Here's a tip, Scotty. Try being an unconscious woman. This guy won't even try to guess the price of milk, probably because he's too busy granting visas to his mates accused of covering up child sex abuse. I mean, at this point, after Tony Abbott and George Pell, it seems like protecting people accused of pedophilia is part of the Prime Minister's job. I guess that explains all those photos of Anthony Albanese doing the muzz with Dibble. And just when you thought Scott Morrison couldn't get any more unlikable, it turns out he's also the type of guy to pull out a ukulele at a dinner party. Terrible. But probably not the worst thing a Liberal's pulled out at a social event. Did Scott Morrison really think that the best way to recover from his terrible handling of COVID while in the middle of an alleged rape in Parliament scandal was to remind us that he also fucked off to Hawaii while the country was on fire? Look guys, it might seem like I'm doing a bad job now, but I just wanted to remind you, I was also doing a bad job then. I wouldn't be surprised if the PM's next press conference is held in the bathroom of a McDonald's, just to remind us of all the fun scandals. Whoever is running Scott's PR should be taken out the back and shot. There's no way that someone is this bad at their job. And that's coming from me, a guy who's supposed to do this show every 2 weeks. At this point, we have to accept it. That's not a PR management working to make Australia better. That is an undercover spy from a foreign nation trying to tear us apart from the inside. Later in the episode, when asked about Australian of the Year, Grace Tame choosing not to smile in photos with the Prime Minister, Mrs. Morrison had this to say.
I just found it a little bit disappointing because we'll welcome you into our home. I respect people that, want to change things, stand up for their beliefs and are strong, but I still think there's manners and respect.
And I agree. If you have a look through the annals of history, every single person who changed the world did it with a smile on their face. MLK, Rosa Parks, Genghis Khan, All people who change the world simply by smiling at it. In fact, I completely agree with the Morrisons here, and as you can see by Scott's behaviour, he has incredible manners. Manners like turning your back when someone's speaking to you, abandoning an entire country in their time of need, and forcing someone to shake their hand after they said they don't want to. And who can forget the power of a smile? After all, if there's one person you can trust, it's this guy with a smile on his face.
This is my leader.
There you go.
And I'm ambitious for him.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's episode. Stay tuned for next episode where I'll be reporting live from the battlefield in Ukraine. Literally live. I'll perform it in front of you. Let's be honest, we're all going to be conscripted by then. Make sure you grab tickets to my Melbourne International Comedy Festival show straight out of Frankston, which is on sale now. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in 2,000 years. There's your realistic ending.
Buy my shit, buy my shirts, buy my merchant, no one gets hurt. Buy my shit, buy my shirts, buy my merchant, no one gets hurt. Buy my shit, buy my shirts, buy my merchant, no one gets hurt. Buy my shit, buy my shirts, buy my merchant, no one gets hurt.